Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means. I'm in the Paddock F1. Greeny and the Cheese. We've made it the 880-mile trek from Bahrain to Saudi Arabia for round 2 of the 2024 F1 season. On the banks of the Red Sea, we're racing Jeddah. Jeddah is the second largest city in Saudi Arabia. It is also the gateway city to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. And while you're there, maybe check out King Fahad's fountain. Check out the Faki Aquarium. Do some fine shopping at a couple of those fancy malls they got over there. But this ain't no travel show. This is an F1 show. And we're racing the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit. 3.84 miles, 27 corners, 3 DRS zones. It's the second longest on the F1 calendar. 27 meters longer than Las Vegas. How about that? Nipping it by a little bit there. You give it the full beans for 75% of your lap. Oh, and the spice is nice for Red Bull as they dominate the second race of the season, again bringing home a 1-2. Max's 9th race win in a row dating back to last year. Charles rounds out the podium. But the story of the day is the 18-year-old Bearman, after getting the call right 2 hours before FP3, ends up finishing 7th in the second Ferrari, filling in for Carlos. Get well soon, Carlos. But as always, we're caffeinated, we're medicated. Greeny, good day, sir.
Good day, and of course, as always, there's about 380,000 different podcasts out there. You chose ours today. Thank you very much. We beyond appreciate that. The Bearman and Ferrari end up being the story of the day. Obviously, Red Bull, and I believe it's also Max Verstappen's 100th podium. Maybe we should
100th podium, yeah.
Give a little applause to that as well. So a tremendous day, a tremendous milestone day. We had those 4 Brits there running back to back to back to back, and Bearman and Lewis and Lando and George Russell. Oscar Piastri comes in 4th.
Yeah, good drive.
Very good drive today. So a good drive for the kids, that's for sure. A less than stellar drive for others, especially Stake, who ends up in the back of the pack. And Williams looked like a little bit of a mess out there today. And but yeah, away we go. Again, Max Verstappen winning once again. He looks absolutely unstoppable. Second time here in 4 years that Max Verstappen has taken the checkered flag, and it was really, again, all about the Bearman. When you're talking about a situation where Max Verstappen's going to basically be the headline potentially every single week, it's nice to have and refreshing to have something else, especially coming out of Ferrari. You just missed there in your top 6, coming in 7th, so I'm sure you were a little pissed off about that. But nonetheless, sum it up. Max Verstappen, 100th podium, Bearman, and all that good stuff. Cheese, how was that race for you?
It was, to be honest, it was kind of as expected. Everybody knows Red Bull's far and above everybody else. Ferrari's pretty much the second best car out there. I mean, most people in the paddock will say so. And then it's, the fight between McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston. Aston really didn't have the straight line pace compared to the McLaren. This track definitely suited the McLaren better with the high-speed corners. Next race in Australia might not be so much since they struggle in the lower speed. So, they definitely have to try and maximize their points here. Mercedes, there's issues there. There's issues in Mercedes. I mean, both drivers will say it. I mean, we talked about it, off air as when we communicated, and it was like, even yesterday's gambling show. I mean, they just didn't look that great in practice. You didn't really trust that they were going to move forward at all in the race. So definitely something that Merck's really got to seriously work on. But, story of the day is the Bearman. I mean, to get the call 2 hours before FP3 when you're on your way to race the FP2, sprint race, and then you got to get over here and you're stepping in for Carlos for the rest of the weekend. To miss out on, Q3 by, thousandths of a second behind Lewis, and then to put the car in 7th, that's absolutely brilliant. That's brilliant. And probably, not even probably, most likely, pretty much guarantees him a spot on the grid somewhere next year. Probably in a Haas.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. As he was like, as we mentioned in last night's episode, if you missed it, go check it out. Bearman was Ollie B. What are we calling him? He needs some kind of name because he's going to be a little bit of a legend here. 18 years old, coming out, one of the youngest drivers to ever come out.
Youngest driver to ever drive for Ferrari.
How
about that? How about that?
And Ferrari has been around every single year in Formula One, so that's a pretty big deal right there. Just overall, but just being 18 years old and sitting in a Formula One car and being able to get points is just an unbelievable feat. I don't think the average
Make
person
moves.
understands.
I had his cam up on my F1 TV the entire race, and he drove a solid race. Solid race. Only thing I saw in the post-race that he said is that probably should have planned his move better with Nico, so he could have got by him quicker. And then he probably would have been possibly even fighting for that 6th spot with George Russell, because his pace was pretty much on Russell's pace, or even a 10th or 2 quicker than George Russell at times during that final stretch, especially with the, early safety car that came out that definitely probably didn't play in his hands as much to be able to, have the knowledge to maintain his tires better, to have, better tires near the end of the race, but just had great pace even to stay ahead of Lando and Lewis when they made that late stop and threw on the softs. Then they were charging for him in a bit, but they fell off, and he just held strong at 7th, which was absolutely brilliant drive. Brilliant drive. That's more than you could ever expected, to be honest. I mean, he'd want to be on the podium or something like that, or win. I mean, that's, every racing car driver, every racing car driver would want to be. But that's unrealistic. I mean, just to get points in your debut, he's actually 10th in the driver's standings right now. How about that?
How about them apples?
How about that?
Like apples. Because Bearman is top 10. That will not last long. Most likely, Carlos Sainz will be back for Australia. You never know. But you got 2 weeks to get to Australia. We'll see what happens there. If not, I think Ferrari is not in the worst possible position, as you could have been losing Carlos Sainz for potentially another race. With Bearman, I think maybe the average Ferrari fan might prefer, even though Carlos Sainz just got a podium. So both Ferrari drivers, how about that, made podiums in the first 2 races. So you had Carlos last week and Charles Leclerc this week, as well as Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, 5th consecutive time on the front row. Even though Leclerc did not finish top 2 as he started. How do you think of Charles Leclerc's drive today? Getting podium, holding off Oscar Piastri, who fought hard all day. You got to be so impressed with him. Fernando Alonso definitely seemed to have some issues, as you mentioned before, with Aston Martin's issues. And I mean, losing your partner there pretty early on, because as I said last night, Lance Stroll will crash, because that's what Lance Stroll does, especially on courses like this. And I was dead right. What was that, like lap 12? And not even before.
Not even. It was like lap 8? Like
not even.
7, 6, 7, 8, something like that, I think.
Not even. And just the fact that nobody else actually hit a wall the entire time. I know there was a lot of walls hit during practice. But only one. Only one. And it was Lance Stroll, which you have an 18-year-old out there who didn't hit the wall. And a veteran driver that did. So I know we get on Lance Stroll all the time, but he deserves it. So
I mean,
that's all I'm going to say about him.
It happens that, especially at that track, somebody does that every single year.
Every time.
Every single year. It's that corner is it's actually kind of a little bit of a weird corner. The wall kind of like jets out at you a little bit at the end there. So, and you're going millimeter precision, through this fast streets on this Jeddah street circuit. So it happens every year. So, you make that little millimeter. I mean, happened to George Russell in Singapore last year at the end. I mean, this thing's kind of just, and it's not even that you even hit it hard. It's that you just hit it at that right little angle, the right angle, and it just breaks that suspension. And you're done.
And you're done. And it does happen every year. But to be completely honest, I mean, for Lance Stroll, he has to minimize all these situations.
Well, yes.
He has not had a good couple of years here. So he definitely needs to minimize those. Definitely not a glorious day for him as he skidded right across the Jeddah logo and crashed out right there in a perfect picture of Lance Stroll's day. And then you had, of course, Pierre Gasly, who just conked out with the Alpine. Definitely another miserable day for Alpine. We'll see if they can turn it around. But again, biggest story of the day, Ollie Bearman. Hopefully we'll see him again this year at some point. Maybe in a Haas sooner than later. Maybe that's our switch this year. I know we talked preseason about the potential of someone getting bumped off the grid between now and the end of the season. But Haas definitely... Haas races well here, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about all that and later. Congratulations again, Max Verstappen's 100th podium. Feels like he just showed up to Formula One yesterday, and now he's 100 podiums in. So really an absolutely amazing accomplishment. Sergio Perez second, Charles Leclerc. Giddy up, ponies. Stay on the podium. If you get like I said preseason, if you have a pony on the podium 20 out of 23 or 24 races this year, you're going to be a happy man. So you're 2 for 2.
You finished second. Yeah,
you're 2 for 2 on
finish second.
You're 2 for 2 on podiums. I don't think Ferrari fans could be looking for any more than that. Maybe a second there.
You can't expect any more than that. You can't expect it anymore.
No. 3rd, 4th last week, and 3-7 this week with your number 2 driver's appendix exploding.
Ah, yes. One of my favorite sounds of the week, I do have to say. When it's time to take that fantasy ride to that fantasy island of Greentopia, where the beer flows like wine and the wine flows like beer. And the cannabis, oh yes, it grows as far as the eyes can see. If you take a look at me right now, you can tell I've been sampling. Just take a little walk, top of the hill, to that casino in the sky. Tickets in hand. We cash it in. Where are we? Check it out. I got the blue eyes of a Bond going today, my friend.
Well, you, sir, are going to...
Because the spice is very nice.
The midnight showing here.
I am going to the
which
midnight
I hear is
showing,
excellent. I'll be checking it out in the next week here. So, but you'll be going tonight in the Super IMAX. Only like 10 of them in the planet, and you'll be at one of those tonight. 12 of them.
I'll be one of those theaters tonight.
You'll be in the Super IMAX there. Very, very jealous, and I'm sure some of our listeners might be as well. Again, if you have not checked this out on YouTube, check that out. Last night's episode is up there, as well as the special podcast. If you haven't checked that out, we appreciate that you did. And jump over on YouTube and subscribe and like and all that good stuff. So, it looks like you hit the Ferrari. Both Ferraris in the points.
Yep.
So how about that? But you blew it on everything else.
I think that was it.
You blew it on everything else. So you, sir, bet 200 and you won back 45. So you dropped 155 greeny bucks. But you didn't do as bad as I did. I said there'd be a red flag. I was, gosh, God damn it. Lance Stroll, I thought he was coming to be my hero. But he did not. They did not throw a red flag, which they shouldn't have. You got Sergio Perez did not win.
Nope.
Although still a great bet, plus 750. That's a ridiculous number. And we did come in second. Logan Sargent did not finish dead last. That was a tag team duo of idiocy. Eventually, Joe, which we'll get to in a little bit, finished dead last because they had the most asinine strategy I've ever seen in my life and completely did not execute. They might as well have executed themselves outside executing that pit stop, because that was a disaster coming in there at lap 42. But I did hit the trifecta at the lowest trifecta rate I've ever seen at negative 105. I put down 400 greeny bucks and I won back 95 greeny bucks, which means I took a hit of 305 greeny bucks. So together, if you followed our bets,
not so good so far.
You might be looking for us. Even last week, we were down several units this week. But we'll try to make it up in Australia for y'all. So
we need some better odds out there. That's what we need.
We need to make some better bets out there.
Well, all the bets that would have probably won were all in the negative, so there's no value.
Yeah, well,
value's not there.
There's definitely no value in losing, but
no, there's not.
But there we
Better
are.
luck next time, as they say.
Both of us 1 and 3. Both of us 1 and 3. All right. So with that, we go right into a little change in format this time, as we go right into Quizmaster's cockpit. I'm putting my helmet on, strapping in, and taking 3 laps around the track for 3 questions. Cheese. I'm not going to say go easy on me, because you shouldn't.
Well, I think you'll have trouble. So we'll see.
1 or 3 so far. 1 and 2 so far. Let's see if we can get some more on the board this week. Go ahead, sir.
Question number 1. What circuit on the F1 calendar is longer than Jeddah?
Spa?
That is correct. That's 1. 1 for 1. Purple sector. Question 2. Name the 3 drivers that have won the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez.
That is correct as well, sir. 2 for 2. We need like theme music here, like dun 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 dun, as you're coming down. Can you put it together, sir? Question 3. Who is the last British driver to bring home points in their F1 debut before the Bear did it today?
Jackie Stewart.
Good guess, but no. The last person to be a British driver to score points in his debut happened in 2011, and that was by Paul di Resta.
Oh, Paul di Resta. You can catch him on Sky Sports.
Paul so that is incorrect, sir.
Wow.
So you don't win.
So close. So close. I was sweating there. You were sweating too. I saw those beads of sweat falling from here. Well, I guess that means where we end is where we go. It's a loser week, because you got to get all 3 of them right. So close. All right, and not so close. I was about 40 years off in British racing, driving Formula One history. So I guess that takes us into losers this week. Sadly.
That's correct, sir.
So close. So close. All right, so
where to begin?
So many losers.
Visa RB. Just I don't know what's that was a mess. I mean, Danny had struggles the entire race here. Yuki was slow up there with a lot of those cars for a good chunk of the time.
He looked good to start.
Looked good to start, and then just was poof gone. But yeah, that was a mad struggle for them. Lando jumping the start, somehow escaping the penalty on that one.
Yeah, also starting 6th and then the 8th. It's not
and then the 8th. That's not so great. Yeah, if he dropped back when this was McLaren's week to get those extra points against Mercedes, who was definitely struggling the entire weekend. So that's definitely not what they needed, and just didn't have the pace there as much either. Yeah, Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of earlier too. Lance Stroll just you can't make that mistake right now. You can't afford it.
No, can't afford it. I mean, listen, nobody can afford wiping out at a street track like that and catching the lip there and crashing out. But Lance Stroll could definitely not afford it. No. Especially with also Alonso struggling a little bit there. Clearly said that they're the third best team out there today. Or the fourth best team out there is Alonso. But Alonso did hold on. We are in losers, which means, one Haas did great and the other Haas did terrible. I mean...
It's the pinball wizard.
It was a pinball wizard out there. K-Mag coming right out there and having some issues all day. Two
10-second, not one, but 2 10-second penalties.
2 10-second penalties.
You did some goods on that day for that.
And it's really a disaster out there. And, of course, Alpine. What a ghastly last... A lap?
Yeah, something.
A lap?
Yeah.
They brought him in. You got to do better than that, especially coming off that horrendous first start there in Bahrain.
If he reports a gearbox issue, and then you let him do burnouts, which is like the worst thing to do to a gearbox. So did you not? You should have just brought him in then.
This is what happens when half your staff leaves in Bahrain. I don't know what happened in their front office that day of P1 in Bahrain, but I think they showed up and half there was just resignation letters. They didn't even show up. Yeah. It's like an absolute nightmare. You're just walking into work and where's our race engineer? Yeah, he quit. So I mean, half the engineers walked out of Alpine. Obviously, it's an absolute disaster right there. There are people who spend their entire lives trying to get any job in F1, so to walk out of a job in F1 is pretty tremendous. So whatever's going on in Alpine, whatever's been going on,
it's a mess.
I'm sure that all the recent former drivers and between Otmar and those in higher places that were there over the last several years, between Fernando Alonso being there. I mean, they're really happy to be out of there, and you're left with a disaster. And a lot of people do not like Esteban Ocon in this sport. Let's be frank. And then Pierre Gasly just getting through one lap. So Alpine's an absolute disaster right now. Better them than Haas. And those are the losers for the week, which takes us right into winners.
Winners, I'll leave one for you for sure. Piastri, we spoke about him earlier, but fourth place for Piastri is a really good drive. Really good drive for him. Ollie Bearman, just, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The kids today. Absolutely brilliant.
The kids
stay in the desert.
That's really all I got for winners. We'll stop there. We can go on with some other guys, but we've already, discussed some of these guys at length already. So, Max 100th podium. I mean,
Fernando Alonso. Can we still give it up for Fernando? He was clearly, they were clearly, I mean, obviously not as good as the Red Bull, not as good as the Ferrari, not as good as the McLaren, yet somehow put that car in fifth to end the race. Ahead of George Russell, battling George Russell all day, and able to stay ahead of George Russell. I think that was really impressive with Fernando. And the car was not at its best today. He admitted it very early on, and I was really expecting Fernando to drop back a couple places, especially with that frontline speed issue. But he held on, man. The freaking veteran. At that age, you saw Danny Ricciardo at the end, and I know he spun around at the end with lap 49 or 50 towards the very end. I mean, there's probably just a lack of concentration towards the end there, mental fatigue. This is, you have the 20 best drivers on the planet. I mean, you look at some of the drivers that can't make it into F1, outside of F1, how they race. They're unbelievable, these guys. I mean, the guys in in F2, even F3 are absolutely phenomenal. So really, really, it's really the best drivers in the world up here. And it's really tough when you're even slightly below that. So the age definitely was showing. I think Danny Rick is definitely having some issues with getting a little bit older too. But again, Fernando Alonso, just phenomenal again. Just can't take for granted how difficult it is with what he's doing. So of course, that only leaves us with one thing.
I need to slap my goddamn.
Somebody's going to get slapped in the desert.
There's only one team that gets that one. That's Kick Sauber. That is an absolute darn mess. I mean, was that the second race in a row where they had the wheel nut fall off the tire, which is usually attached to the tire already? I mean, that's a mess. That's a mess. And to have it on 2 races in a row, Carlos just looks absolutely, it's an absolute mess. I mean, Valtteri looks awful. I mean, Joe was actually driving a semi-decent race in that, piece of junk, and then they do that to him. I mean, that team's a mess. That's just a mess.
Yeah. Joe started dead last, was able to get, I mean, obviously they did that very late pit stop, like lap 42, 43,
something like
brought
that,
him in, planned the whole race strategy to bring him in late to try, probably not for points, but even try for fastest lap towards the end, and they blow it. And the whole race strategy was around one concept. Bring Joe in lap 42, 43 with 7, 8, 9 laps or so left, and try to get him get him on the soft tires, get him potentially fastest lap. And the pit crew again blows the whole thing. They finish back to back, 17th, 18th, back of the pack after the 2 DNFs. Valtteri Bottas, he's better than this, man. He's better than this, and I don't know. It's pretty bad.
Car stinks. Car stinks. It's bad.
It's bad.
It's very bad.
That lime green's looking more like puke green every single race we get here because it is not good.
No.
So once again, back of the pack for them. Slap your damn selves, the whole damn team, especially that pit crew. Whole damn team.
Yeah, get a little sand in there. We're in the desert. Get a little extra sting. And that takes us right into our usual ending segment of the week. In the news! And we'll just lead right in off of that Kick Sauber disaster over there. Audi announced that it will be fully taking over the Sauber team. I bet the people who work for Sauber right now can't wait for that to happen, because that is a mess. They need some cash influx. They need a better plan. Apparently, Audi's got the big, massive plan and designing everything already. So, I mean, I bet those people can't wait till that happens. Because although maybe a bunch of them won't be having a job after these performances the last couple of weeks, especially in that pit crew. I mean, it's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, I think Audi's going to have to come in here and
clean house.
Potentially clean house at this point. I think every week, everything they do in the next season plus 2 seasons here is going to be mission critical. I don't think you're going to see too much movement in staff unless people start walking, just because they're probably going to try to keep whatever staff they have. They're going to run on a shoestring budget. That's why you have some shady, sponsors here in Kick, super shady. Steak, same company, by the way, same owner, Ed Craven, the shadiest dude you'll ever meet. Just watch Steak and Drake if you ever want to see absolute lunacy with Drake betting $1,000 a spin gamble. It's insane. It's insane. Ed Craven just sits on YouTube all day and just plays slot machines. Apparently from Australia, where it's illegal. I don't know how he gets away with that. In his mansion in Australia, spinning the wheel all day in his... I'm not even going to get into it. It's a disaster. They went into bed with the devil in these gambling and this Kick site, which... That's what you do. That's what happens. When you make a deal with the devil, things go bad. I cannot wait for Audi to take over and get rid of that puke green. I hope this puke green goes away. I mean, by the way, I hope they change the livery sometimes this year. And that's all I got to say about that, because I'm done. I'm done with Steak. Put him in the back of the pack. I feel bad for Bottas, who now is just
feel bad for Joe too. I mean, he shows some talent here and there, and he's driving that piece of junk. So that's rough. That's rough, kid.
Yeah, Bottas is a
We'll go to something a little bit
Grand Prix winner. Bottas has won multiple Grand Prix. Come on.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
He's driving that piece of shit. Come on.
All right.
Am I wrong?
No.
All right, story number 2.
No.
I'm already sick. I'm already sick of steak.
Would you take Bearman in a Haas right now?
Yes.
He is rumored to.
Don't even have to finish. You don't even have to finish. Yes. I would have taken him last year when he was in P1 in Mexico. Taking him right there. The way K-Mag performed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's all right.
I knew what you were going to say as soon as it came out of your lips. I mean, obviously, Bearman's like he is right now at this moment the flavor of the week.
Yeah.
Did he win official driver of the day? I didn't see it. Did he win
Yes,
official
he
driver of
did.
the day?
Yes, he
Driver of the
did.
day? I mean, I don't know
Trust the vote.
Who else you're
Trust the
picking?
vote.
Who else you're picking? He is like Captain Britain right now. He really is going to be the front page of the papers tomorrow. And of course you would take him. Of course you would take him. I don't know if it's going to lead to any success. I mean, Haas is not Ferrari, but hopefully he won't make the stupid moves that K-Mag's been making, especially over the last, dating back to like after the break last year. K-Mag has shown significant signs of stepping back. And I don't know if Nico Hülkenberg in a different world would, again, someone else who was out of the sport for a while. Let's get some fresh blood in here. These guys, the drivers for Haas are just older. We've seen them. We've seen what they can do. And, it's time for a fresh start. When you have a team that is going to be back in the pack, midfield at best every single race, I'd rather see some young guys in there while you're still developing the car. If it's a fully developed car and you think this is a car that's going to compete for a top 5 spot, then you can stay with K-Bag and Hülkenberg, stay where you have now. But if you're talking about 2 more years of development, which they're talking about, 2026, that's what they're looking at, why are you spending money on these drivers? Because eventually, as we're laughing at Stake F1 and Sauber right now, and Alpine, Haas is going to take that throne at the back of the pack. We know this. We know it's not going to be long before Haas ends up back there. This is a fact. So, because it happens every year. So
yeah, they start out nice, then it all falls apart.
All right, next story.
That is typical.
Next
story. This is kind of a big one, actually. Not the biggest of the week, but big one since it gets into the integrity of the sport here. The FIA president, Ben Sulayem, is under investigation for trying to tamper with race results in last year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, trying to get the penalty that was given to Alonso removed. What's your thoughts on that?
It's not going to go. It's not going to go anywhere. Big. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's going to be under investigation. I think just for the fact that someone caught wind of it, and it's just going to go through
a whistleblower came forth.
They're going to go through the motions of this. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? They're going to speak to him in private. They probably already did have that conversation. Wow. And, just told Ben Sulayem to just not do that. It's just the integrity of the sport. What his response is going to determine where the investigation goes. But I think this investigation is several steps ahead of where we know it is. I think this has been going on for behind the scenes for probably several weeks, if not months at this point. As far as behind the scenes goes in this situation, I know they've been speaking about it in some capacity or regard. So, Yeah, I'm sure he's been spoken to, and I think this is just we're in the procedural stages now of just going through the motions. And yeah, it shouldn't happen. Obviously, why are you tampering with results? But I think every major sport has this in some regard. I think every major sport has someone behind the scenes tampering because they feel it's the best for the profitability of the sport. So, from a business standpoint, a profitability standpoint, I'd say you can't blame him. But from an integrity of Formula One and the sport itself, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who manipulates the races. Leave that to the corrupt officials. All right. We're making $60,000 a year. Not the people who are making millions a year. If you're making like a regular wage, I guess it's never okay to cheat, but I can understand a little more. But Formula One doesn't need any kind of major scandal or potential scandal to boost their ratings. It's ridiculous. All right, I'm sick of this story too. What do you got next?
Well, the big story, the really big story that's been, just churning and churning for weeks now and keeps building and building and building. Where do we even begin with this one? You got Max's dad and Horner still at it. Max's dad was having dinner with Toto after the Bahrain race. How about that? Marco's apparently going to be staying now at Red Bull after having meetings this morning, which is big for Red Bull since they won't probably lose Max then. Because if Marco's out, Max said he's out, and he's got to add it in the contract. Red Bull suspended the employee who brought the allegations against Horner this week as well. So this Red Bull story just keeps churning and churning. It's like a soap opera amongst itself. Like, it's like a daytime soap opera playing out here in front of us. And the sad part is, and as Alonso said this week, it just shows how boring F1 is right now because nobody's talking about stuff on the track. It's all off the track stuff.
But it's always off the track stuff because off the track stuff is going to garner more of a net to the general population, right? And it's going to put it on the back pages or the front pages or whatever pages you want or whatever it's considered as far as the British rags or whatever European papers that they're going to throw a front news cover story on. Any kind you see text messages or WhatsApp messages or fired or harassment or all this stuff, it sells papers. Okay, let's be honest. It sells news stories. Let's be honest. I just see from our posts online with the minimum response we get, we're getting our butts kicked all over the place online just for posting this stuff because it's a news story every single day, every day. It's who's right, who's wrong every single day. Obviously, it's sensitive topics, very sensitive topics. It has nothing to do with auto racing in the end. And I think Christian Horner is also losing his freaking mind. I think Christian Horner is starting to melt down. I think appropriately so, or justifiably so. He's taking a lot of shots against his family recently. I'm sure if every single day there's news in the paper or the news about your infidelity, it must be fun going home and having dinner with your wife and kids every night. I mean, it's a tough situation. You have to put it in a human situation for Christian Horner, but he put himself in the situation. I think the best thing for him to do is to step down and deal with his family at the moment. Regardless, right, wrong, or indifferent, Red Bull will be fine this year. Red Bull's not going anywhere. Taking a leave of absence and remaining as CEO or having someone as an interim or an associate for the time being to just get him through this. This is a life-changing event, and this is going to pass us by in the news cycle eventually, but it's not going to pass Christian Horner and his family by. It's going to be with them for a very long time, and he should step away from the sport at this point and deal with it because it's getting really heavy. Really ugly and really heavy.
Well, it just goes on to the internal struggles really going on at Red Bull that have been going on for the last few years. since the passing of, the former head. I mean, there's been a power struggle. Marco and Horner don't like each other. Apparently, the reason Marco even had to meet with the Red Bull company brass was because there's a rumor out there that he was the one that leaked all the text and things that were going on, but with the that were involved in the investigation. So it wasn't somebody low down the totem pole. It was somebody near the top here leaking the stuff to the press. So there's the power struggle playing out there at the top of Red Bull.
Yeah, and as far as Jos Verstappen's concerned, stay the hell out of it. Like, unless you're Max's agent all of a sudden.
Well, apparently, did you hear this one too? That the employee was apparently involved with Jos Verstappen. Like 3 years ago, when Max won his first title, they had these two individuals had a little something going on.
A little something
going on. So, guy was going after. It's a soap opera, man. It's a soap opera.
Take a leave of absence. And sadly, this is the most interesting thing going on in Formula One right now. Is Max just hit his 100th podium, and we got an 18-year-old running around in a Ferrari getting posed. But apparently, Christian Horner's text messages are the most important thing right now. The team's going to win with or without Christian Horner this year. Whether going forward is a different story. But Red Bull's going to win. Max Verstappen's going to win. Whether you have me or Horner or anyone in that role, it's just.
As long as they got Adrian Newey.
As long as you got Newey and as long as you got Max Verstappen,
you'll
team's
be
going to be fine. At least in the short term. Long term, if you want to get it right, you get out there and you get in front of it and you go home to your family until it's straight. You could be back before the break. You could be back in a month. You could be back in a couple of weeks. But you have to let it blow over. And when you're in the office every day, it's going to be impossible to blow over.
Yeah.
Let's finish up here, sir. We'll be back in 2 weeks for a race. We're going to do a special episode next week for our 100th episode. I cannot believe we made it to 100 episodes.
Wow.
How about them apples? We're going to have a special 100th episode next week, a little in the news and a little nostalgic about our first 100 episodes here. That'll be like a quick hitter. And then we'll be back with a full episode in 2 weeks, episode 101 in Australia. And, of course, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, check it out right now. Just go to YouTube, Greenie and the Cheese. It'll pop right up. Give us a subscribe. We're getting lots and lots more views, but not as many subscribes as we like. So subscribe so you can get all of the videos as soon as they come out. Greenie, the Cheese, and the Paddock F1. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
And as always, stay medicated, my friends.
Peace.